Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3, 4.
like to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. And I will turn it over to Greg.
Welcome, everyone. The first agenda item is kind of an update on how school opening went. For busing, it was pretty much a normal startup. Same routine things that we find, some tweaking of bus stops and times and stuff like that. And I would say probably with less riders this year, we may have had fewer startup hiccups than usual, but it's going really well. First couple days of school, the students got a temperature check as soon as they get off the buses. That seemed to run really smoothly. They got off the bus, went up, got a temperature check, and went right into the building. So that seems to be working really well. I wanted to let everyone know that we do have GPS units on all the vehicles this year. It's something I talked about at previous building and grounds meetings, and I wanted to just follow up with little information that we do have them on every bus and every van, and I'm able to track them from a laptop or my cell phone or anywhere I have internet connection. We do have a supply of masks on the vans and buses.
Up there.
We also have some hand sanitizer on the buses, and I wanted to make a little note about the hand sanitizer. The bus safety manager for the Department of Transportation put out a memo to all the school districts and busing companies that they will not allow any larger than 3.4 ounce container for the driver or any individual student. So the largest amount of hand sanitizer the driver can have or a student on a bus is 3.4 ounces. And finally, for bus disinfecting, there are 2 drivers in the morning who are handling disinfection. And then there are 2 drivers at the end of the evening who are handling disinfection of the buses after all the runs. And any other time in between there, we do have some LCTI runs, and those drivers are handling their own sanitizing the buses at that time. Building-wise, the first week I had a maintenance guy stationed at each of the buildings just as a backup precautionary measure. We didn't know how things would go. And I'm happy to say that everything is going really well in the buildings. The biggest hurdle or the largest amount of work comes at lunchtime, and that is when I have a second shift staff member who I moved up to a 11 to 7:30 shift to help out with lunches and cleaning up, sanitizing, bathrooms, all those kind of things. And so far, it's been working out really well. And we've been able to get the job completed easily, and things are going really well from a building and busing perspective. Does anybody have any questions about busing, buildings, grounds?
That's a great job. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Robin. Hearing no questions on the first topic, I'll move on to the second one. The second one is about dogs on the practice field hockey field. Probably, I'm going to say maybe 7 years ago, we installed a chain link fence around the field hockey field, and that was pretty much when we were keep kids who were at the practices and stuff like that from getting out on the road. And since that time, we've allowed the practice of allowing dogs on the field hockey field. And there are some concerns about pet owners not cleaning up waste from their dogs afterwards. We do have a dog waste station down there to help out. Hopefully they would grab a little baggie and clean up, but unfortunately some have not. The field was closed about 5 years ago at the direction of Mr. Michaels during the season, and that it was really the only time that the field was locked up and we didn't allow pets on there. So I know, Allison, you may have some more to add to the conversation, so I'll open it up to you or anyone else who wants to talk about it.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, I thank you everybody for inviting me here tonight. I did send an email last Friday regarding this issue, and the email, I know it was a very direct email, but I've been involved with the Youth Association field hockey program for about 5 years, and for about 5 years, there's been a consistent issue with stepping on the field and finding dog feces sporadically across the field, oftentimes in the playing area. You will find it very frequently around the edges of the facility as well, but it's just been a consistent problem for 5 years. So I was asked by multiple people to come to the committee and explain kind of what my concerns were, and hopefully we can come up with some solutions so that our athletes do not have to endure this any longer.
Miss Allison, I'm gonna call you Allison tonight. Allison,
That's fine. That's fine. Please.
Can you clarify when you said around the edges of the field? Are you talking both on the inside of the fence and on the outside of the fence, or just on the inside of the fence? And can you also speak a little bit to the field adjacent to the fence?
The field adjacent as in outside of the fence?
Outside of the fence,
Yeah.
but on the, that runs along Bldg Lane there.
Yeah, so the feces that I've come in contact with is predominant. I have not really seen it outside of the fenced area. I believe that because it is fenced in, it's a nice area for people to let their dogs run freely and exercise. And I do definitely witness that on many, many, many occasions. So the feces is actually inside the fence, but on the perimeter going around. Last night we had practice, and we were getting ready to leave, and the girls have been hanging their bags in strategic areas along the fence as their own space, so that they're not too close to the other players when they take breaks. And my daughter's bag, when we were going to get it at the end of the night, I looked down and I almost stepped right in feces. So it's mainly around that perimeter, but yes, it is. I mean, it's all over. It will be in the middle of the field. It will be near the goal cages. It will be, about a week or so ago, we were practicing, and one of my players said, Coach, there's dog poop right here. And so we picked everything up and we went down to another area of the field. And before we even began practice, continuing what we were doing, we had to walk around the area to conclude that there wasn't any feces anywhere there. So yeah, it's not really, we don't really practice in that area outside of the fence, but we will sometimes warm up there if the high school's still finishing up, but we have not run into any issues there. It's mainly in the fenced-in area.
Okay, thank you. We also have Mr. Heine with us tonight as well. Eric, if you would like to, I know you've reached out as well. If you would like to share, either reinforce, share additional information.
Thank you for inviting me
Sure.
tonight, and thank you everybody for reading my email. Everything Allison said is true. The middle school field has turned into a public dog park more than what it is our school's athletic field. And we have young ladies on that field, NOYAA, elementary school age, all the way up to the varsity team, and they're on there, and it's becoming disgusting. The public is they're lucky to have that, for using it and not caring for it. And it's just sad. What else do I have to add? But Allison, Allison's at the field a lot more than I am. I always just hear it from my daughter and from Coach Wanamaker. Feel if you need to learn more information about this, Coach Wanamaker would probably be the best to talk to, because he's there often with the varsity girls. And I believe Allison's there during the week with the younger ladies, the NLYA.
Yeah. And I've definitely spoken with
somebody
like the
earlier,
coaches from the secondary level. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
I can, yeah. Eric was breaking up a little bit, but the takeaway I heard from him was that he reinforced what you said. It's a problem for the younger girls. It's a problem for the older girls, and that the, that the community is abusing it by not cleaning up after their pets. Okay.
Matt, it's Matt, and I guess I was not aware of this situation before, and now we've had a couple people come forward, and I'm glad we have. I don't remember the board ever approving this as a dog walking park, but if we did, I think we need to rescind it. I think this is just totally unacceptable, and I don't know if you want direction from the board, if you want some type of a motion to support you on this. But I don't find it acceptable, and I think as a board member, I'm going to do whatever I need to do. If that means locking the place down and keeping the public out, so be it. That's what we have to do. They've obviously just totally abused their privilege, and that's my feelings on the whole situation. So,
thank you, Mr. Green. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead. This is Gary. I have something then. Go ahead.
Okay. Because this is, because that space has been used by not only our sports, the NLYA sports, but it's also been common practice for community members now to be using to walk their pets there. I think it's best if the committee gives direction to say that we are going to lock it down, and we can say that the conversation happened at a public meeting. So I'll look for direction from this committee. I don't know if that, I don't believe that technically has to go to the full board for a vote.
I'm sorry, Matt. This is Robin.
What?
I feel it is appropriate, though, that it comes from this committee to give that direction.
This is Gary. Couple things. Number one, I'm along with Matt, and maybe Greg, you can tell me, but I do not also remember the board ever really taking official action on such a thing. Let me just say, I for one, who since the pandemic started, Lynn and I have taken our dog up there for a few times to run, just because it was a place to allow safely running the dog. We stopped going there because we were cleaning up everybody else's dog dirt. We're very careful with that. And we spoke to another couple people who we saw at one time, and they were just walking their dog. And we said, "Oh, do you want to come in?" Because most of us were very fair of letting dogs in, and then we would go out, and then somebody else would come in, not to mix everything so that we could watch it. And many of them said the same thing, was they don't want to come in anymore because of the dog dirt that's laying around from pets there. So with that in mind, I mean, I understand. The only thing I will say, Matt, and I agree with Matt Green also, and I would be receptive very much to have a motion coming out on next Monday night to close that facility down and have it locked for school purposes only. But I think we need to, because, and I addressed this the other night with the last night, as a matter of fact, with the community relations, because again, it has been open to the public. It is a community thing in a sense. So that I think what we need to do is lock it down, but I think we need to also post it saying that it's locked down and it's not going to be used for a dog park, and put something on our website. I'm just disappointed that this has to happen this way because of people's ignorance. But I also noticed that up at the Victory Park about a couple of weeks ago, that the ball field has been now labeled as off limits, do not enter, and no trespassing. And I'm assuming it's because of much of the same reason up there. So I agree. I think we need to make a decision, and I think that has to come not really from tonight, but I think recommendation from this committee can be to bring it forward that we do close that facility for school purposes only.
What was the sentiment on, that was last night, Gary, on the other committees? Were they also in favor of closing it down?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Gail also spoke as a former athlete and so forth on that, saying that, again, we need to be, again, her concern also is because of the kids playing there. And, really, if a child falls into dog dirt, I mean, it's bacteria. I mean, we're trying to be so safe right now, especially with the pandemic. Every little bit counts on us to making sure that the safety and the cleanliness of our facilities is there. So, yes, you're right, Matt. They all did. It was much, I much supported. I don't even think there'll be a question on Monday night.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
Thanks, Matt. I have a bigger concern. This is a non-issue to me. I mean, my God, it's our athletic fields, and it should be for our student athletes, and that's just the way it should be. And even phys ed classes, that can use those fields. We don't open up the football field or the track for public use. I remember us talking about somebody asked us to use a portion of our land for a graduation party, and we said no. Why is the public allowed to use the facility in the first place? I don't even know where that came from. And Allison, I responded to your email, and I told you I had no idea this was going on. I would obviously not recommend it or support it ever. My second concern is in reading your email pretty thoroughly, you said you reached out 4 or 5 years to certain people in our organization. Now, I'm not making any excuses because I should be informed, but I've been a board member for almost a year now, and the lack of communication lines, like if this was a concern 4 or 5 years, how did it get to this point that we're talking about dog feces on school property? I don't understand. If there was a concern, why wasn't this handled before it even got to the board? I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. And you think about liabilities of people even being on school property without authorization with animals who could bite other animals or other human beings. To me, it's a no-brainer. I don't even know why we're discussing it, or should we ever have discussed this?
Sure, I can respond to some of that. Well, one of it is because it is now common practice that has been happening in that field. It's become an accepted use. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. There's no judgment there. I'm just saying that it's been happening. I don't know what the genesis of it was initially, but when people bring concerns like this, the feedback that I always personally give them is, we have avenues where these concerns are, venues where these concerns should be discussed publicly, such as this meeting tonight. So whenever somebody has brought a concern like that to me, I suggested, let's go to a committee. This is the appropriate committee to bring it up. I'm getting mixed messages now about whether it was, I'm talking years ago, previous board members and central office administrators said, green light it, make it happen, go put the dog waste bags out there, put the cans up, or if it was just a central office decision to do that. I don't know the genesis of that. I know that it's now happening and action should be taken on it.
No, Matt, I respect that, but I look at our outer grounds as the same as our inner grounds. So if somebody wants to use our wrestling room to do an MAA tournament, that has to be approval, or a gymnasium, that has to be approved by the school board for use of facilities. And I just don't understand, just because it's outside versus inside, why would that be any different? That's my concern, because listen, I think of liability all the time, and anything could happen at any given moment. And God forbid, we're rubbing nickels together to make quarters. And, we don't need any more litigious people to jump in on things. That's just my thought. I'm just confused on how it got to this point. That's all I'm saying. We have a process in place for use of facilities, and shame on me being a new school board member, but I just don't understand that. In the other district I was affiliated with, that never happens, ever, ever, ever. And I know we're a community-based school district, and I love it. That's why I live here. Lived here for almost 40 years. I get that, but my goodness, we're talking about our kids, and Allison, this isn't going to be a non-issue with me.
You do raise an interesting question, though, Mr. Kern, and I just kind of thought of it now, in that this isn't the only area where we allow our community to use an actual venue without prior permission. And what I'm referring to is prior to the pandemic, of course, back in the good old days, we left our Bldg Stadium open for people to walk during the evening. There was no facilities request. They were in there walking the track, sometimes running the track, so I guess I'm looking for, are we okay with that? I've never seen anybody walk a dog in the stadium, but I've seen people doing laps, walking, running, practicing sprints in there. So I'm just, are we splitting hairs if we go, address it that way as well?
No, we're not, Matt. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you an exact. When I was middle school principal in Nazareth, they built an all-weather track right next to my building. They opened it to the public. Before you know it, there were skateboards. There were motorized scooters. There were people walking during phys ed classes during the school day. And then it became a turf field. Then it was open to flag football on the weekends for, the young lads to play. And it became a huge issue, and we had to shut it down. I'm just telling you, liability is everything here. Right. And as much as the community pays for everything, not everybody's going to respect the property like everybody else. And you just got to think that way. And that's kind of my feelings. That's all.
Right. Understood. Mr. Durr, can you speak to if we've had any of those misuses of the stadium or track when it would be open during the evenings for people to walk?
No, we really haven't had any misuse in the stadium. Everyone who comes here has been respectful for the stadium. We have folks who use the district grounds as they come here and they run to our campus. I would say for the field hockey field, I guess we've had issues from time to time, and yes, we've talked through them. We have put up signs, I believe, at certain times, encouraging people to clean up after their dogs, and maybe it helped for a while. I would say, I'm going to say probably since everyone's kind of been in the pandemic mode, I think maybe that field's even seeing a lot more use by dogs than it ever has. So it just is something that we've never discussed one way or another. I guess I feel like with previous administration, we've maybe talked about it internally, and those are the steps we've taken, and they may have worked, but maybe now we're at the point where we just need to say that's it's just closed.
Right. Let me give you a little history here. I was a phys ed teacher at Northern Lehigh for a long time. And I remember Frank Carrazzo being our baseball coach, and there were guys who on the weekends would hit golf balls in the back field. And there would be, they would try to pick up their balls when they can find them. And I remember one of our baseball players stepping on a golf ball, spraining his ankle, and then that was brought up back then. Now that's got to be like late 80s, early 90s, of which he kind of deferred, said you can't hit golf balls in the backfield because it's injuring our kids. I mean, I understand the community aspect of it. I just have a hard time. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to shut up and let other people talk, but I feel pretty strongly about the safety of our kids. That's all.
I agree with Bob. Lock it down. We can't take the liability. I'm afraid if we lock down the kind of dog track, they're just going to go over to the stadium or some other area, and we're just going to kick the problem around the property. So my vote still remains, has not changed. I'm steadfast, and I think everyone's agreeing, lock it down and let's move on, Unless anybody's dissenting, and I haven't heard anybody dissenting. So,
But this is Gary. The only question I have is, in talking about all of this, is that what do we want to do, and how are we going to handle our facility itself? Let's just say totally, because we're now talking about not letting people walk on the track and other things, or on the baseball fields. I think if we're going to go that route, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, please understand, I'm not, but I am saying that, again, because it is a community kind of thing, that we need to make sure that we set our priorities here, and not priorities, that we set our rules and regulations as to the use of the facilities. And I have no problem with locking down where we can lock down. Now, my concern would be the baseball fields, walking around, especially with the pandemic. And I know those of you who have watched, I mean, we have a lot of people doing a lot of walking around our school grounds. Maybe not so much now that school started, but in the prior. So I think if we need to really look at this carefully as to what we're going to lock down or not use. And then we're going to have to post signs of do not use and do not enter and no trespassing. And that, I think, we've got to be very careful of, because again, it is public property in the sense that it's paid by the taxpayers. Fields, places that should be closed down for use for our students, absolutely, there's no question. But I think we need to be careful of what we say totally as far as use of the school facilities itself, even just walking on the sidewalks or whatever else. That's just me. I think we have a public image that we need to be very careful of also.
So just from your superintendent's perspective, I think the field hockey area should be locked down. I'm comfortable keeping it locked down, or basically no pets in there. Honestly, I'm comfortable with that year round, because we still got to maintain it. We have people that use it during the summer. I think that'll just become the new norm. For liability,
this is Robin. I'm comfortable with that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Disler, you're breaking up. Okay, for the stadium, the bleachers, the track.
I've heard all the comments, both for the community and from
Again, Mr. Disler, you're breaking up, sir. I can't tell what you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now, Matt?
Yes, I can.
I've heard the complaints by the community members. I heard about from the other board members. I'm in agreement with that also. And then going accordingly to what Gary said, was make sure we're in the guidelines. But I would like to see that completely locked up and only used for our purposes for the high school, for our athletics.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Disler. For the stadium, I've had concerns kind of in the back of my mind for a while now, with the people walking. I see people using strollers on there. I don't know that a stroller would damage the track, but potentially. But I'm also concerned about, with those gates open during the evening. I was a teenage boy. I did dumb things. You're running up and down the bleachers. You're trying to do Vision Quest, and the next thing you know, you're going to get injured. So I'm looking at that particular facility, the stadium complex, as a liability issue. I've never seen anybody walk a dog in there. I think we'll get equal pushback from the community, or we may get more pushback from the community on the stadium, as being removed as an exercise facility, a walking facility. But I also think, but I would not look to say, well, people can't walk, our sidewalk that runs the length of Bldg Lane. They can't walk down the street in between the middle school and the high school. I think those things should be made available. and maybe that's the compromise. But I have concerns about liability in the stadium, and I'm on board with the field hockey area as well. I don't know that we need to say no walking down Bldg Lane or down the I forget the name of the road that runs in between the middle school and high school, Snyder Ave. I see couples walking there all the time. I think it's appropriate for them to walk their dogs to there in a paved area and clean up. So maybe that's the compromise. Oh, and also that we put signage up as well. I think that's a must do.
Yeah, Matt, if we could put it on the agenda, and then if a board member on Monday night would be willing to move that we lock up our facilities, such as the stadium and the area for where the field hockey is, that anywhere we have fencing that we can do, that we will do it, and we will lock it up and we will post it as a do not no trespassing kind of thing. I agree 100% on that. And I think we should do that.
Would you, I would, because it's actually two different areas of the campus, I would like to post each area as a separate agenda item.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
I'm sure every one of us sitting here tonight are willing to go along with that. And I know the other board members would also. I think it's important. I think safety and also liability. I think liability, even with the stadium, even more so liability there, makes it warrant us to do that.
Mr. Hill, is there any comments from the YouTube media channel?
Yes, we had one comment from Sean Wanamaker, and Sean said, "We have also had issues with dogs not leashed while on the field as players enter to practice."
Okay. Which again goes back to liability. Okay, well then I will, not hearing anybody opposed to it, I will have two agenda items on Monday night's board evening. One for not allowing any sort of pets in the field hockey area, and that we're going to keep the stadium complex closed to everyone except kind of, phys ed classes, school sanctioned sports for liability reasons.
And Matt, along with that, with Greg, we will then padlock those gates and give keys to the people who need them.
Yes, most certainly. It will be, we can have signage put up,
Okay.
The website, and keys provided to the coaches.
Very good.
Would you like that facility, would you like the field hockey field to be locked as early as, we could probably do it as early as this evening, tomorrow morning, or do you want to wait until after the vote?
I don't think it has to wait, Matt. Particularly, I think if anybody has a problem with any of that being locked, is we were back in school session. We have kids in those parks. I don't think the safety part of it allows us to do whatever is necessary to do for that reason. So I think we could lock it up as early as even tonight or whatever you can do it. I don't know how anybody else feels.
I'm in favor for that also, Matt.
So am
Thank you,
I.
Robin.
Soon as possible, lock it down.
Okay, then, Mr. Durr, it sounds like we have our direction. We'll get it locked down as soon as we can, and those agenda items will show up on Monday evening's board agenda.
Yep, understood. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody for hearing me out and making this motion. It means a whole lot, and I think the community will understand. That unfortunately there was good faith effort from the get-go. I believe that wholeheartedly, but for sanitary reasons and for the safety of our athletes, this is the right way to go. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome, Eric and Allison, and thank you. And you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the committee meetings. Okay, that being said, Mr. Hill just communicated with me that there's no more questions coming out of the YouTube media channel. So it looks like we can now move on to the technology portion of the agenda. Mr. Hill?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm just going to give a brief overview of the start of the year from a technology perspective. This year we started our distribution a little earlier than normal. Normally we wait until the week school starts, the first day of school, to start handing out all of our laptops and Chromebooks. In fact, typically what we do from kindergarten through 8th grade, we usually have all those ready to go in the classrooms for the teachers for the first day of school. This year presented an entirely different challenge. So what we did is we started our distribution the week before schools for those that are in virtual, for all virtual classes, and for those that are M through Z, which go to school on Thursday and Friday, they came and started picking up their laptops and Chromebooks early. Then what we did is we started the distribution for the remainder of the laptops and Chromebooks the following week when the students showed up to school. And just to give everybody some numbers, we had over 500 devices that were kept over the summer because they had some, there was some special programs going on over the summer that students could log on and do some work. And that made me a little bit nervous as the director. We weren't sure what to expect as far as what was going to come back, but I'm happy to say that right as of now, we only have 7 devices that we know were not returned. We had more than that. We had probably about 12. It was around 12 to 15 total. Thankfully, Mr. Naus, our SPO, he was able to retrieve some of those devices for us by calling families, and then they did return them. So as of now, out of those, we had over 500. We have 7 that are still unaccounted for that we are trying to reach out and get those back. Also, we weren't sure about damage from the summer. Right now, I know of we had about 10 laptops, Chromebooks that had damage. There was a combination of LCD. We had a few LCD screens. We had some chargers that were damaged. But again, I think overall, for how many people that kept them over the summer, I think the damage and how many are missing, I think we've done I think our communities did a pretty good job with that. So I was happy to see those numbers. So for the start of the year, it's always busy in technology. And this year was certainly busier than most. We certainly have a lot more tech requests coming in than usual. A lot of that has to do with just technology is now the focus. Let's face it, we're one-to-one really from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And because a lot of students were starting the year online, not into school, we did have quite a few login issues, which is typical for the year. But this year was certainly a lot more than normal. Another issue we ran into was we had an unforeseen wireless issue with some of our laptops. When I say laptops, I mean Chromebooks. Some of our Chromebooks were having trouble connecting to certain Wi-Fi systems at home. It seems to be related to one of our older versions of Chromebooks. And again, that was an unforeseen problem. They would connect to the Wi-Fi, but they would disconnect quite a bit. So they were basically acting intermittently. So what we were doing is we were giving some of those families that had that trouble some of our newer model Chromebooks, and that seems to alleviate the problem. So we had some issues with that were unforeseen. Really, our tech staff here, I think for the first week of school, first couple weeks, it's always very busy, and I really like to thank Mr. Hawes, Mr. Kramer, and Ms. Miklos. They were just running around like crazy, doing everything they can. We were making a lot of phone calls to parents, trying to handle all the teacher requests, and really they went above and beyond, answering calls all times of the day, even in the evening when they go home, on weekends, answering calls, and also emails. So I think they all did a fantastic job trying to stay up on all the added work that they had. Another issue that we ran into to start the year, we have some delays in our shipments of products. We did receive the cameras for the teacher setups, our hubs that would connect everything together. Those were actually shipped to another facility, and those are actually on their way now. So those ended up at a different destination in Texas, but they are on their way. So they will be arriving hopefully sometime by the end of this week. We did not receive the extra monitors yet. I know some of the teachers, Mr. Velocity called me today particularly about that. Some of the teachers are looking forward to having that extra monitor to work with. They are still not here yet. Sadly, tech, there's a lot of delays there. and we didn't receive our speaker phones. But again, the majority, really the camera is probably the most important piece of that puzzle, and they are here. So we're working with what we have. Again, it's not ideal, but we are getting by, and all those components are coming. So soon enough, we'll have the full setup for the teachers. Also, our Chromebooks, we did order 475 new Chromebooks. They have yet to arrive as well. Fortunately, we had enough here to get through the start of the school year. But as I said, we did have some issues with some of them, so we are getting a little low on spares at this point. Our Chromebooks hopefully will be arriving here in the next week or two. Hoping by the end of the month they will be here, and once we get those, we'll be in really good shape. We can swap out all the old Chromebooks really, and that's what we were planning on doing anyway, and then we'll be in much better shape. We also received some of our cases. Peters Elementary received all new cases, but we did not have enough cases for Slatington Elementary. Again, those we received some, but we still have a lot on back order, and again, those should be here hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So right now, Peters Elementary has cases, middle school, high school, of course, has all the cases, but we were short on the Slatington. And again, those were ordered. They're just on back order, so we're hoping to get those in. And one of the last big things that we worked on this year was something called Clever integration. It was called the Clever portal. This was a way for students and teachers to basically simplify the login process for a lot of the applications they use. And for the most part, the Clever integration went well. There was a few delays with a few of the products that we were working on, but most of those are all working now. And this is something that I think is going to pay a lot of dividends down the road with this integration that we have. It makes life a lot easier for the students and staff. But one of the issues I think with all the other professional development going on, we did do a little bit of Clever development, but maybe Clever professional development, maybe a little more would have been, looking back on it, might have been a little more beneficial for our teachers. But I think overall, as I said, that'll pay a lot of dividends down the road. So that's basically the start of school. I think for the most part, it's been successful. Like I said, it's been a little more work on our staff just because of the pandemic and how we're doing things now. Our department really, I don't know if it was really designed to handle this type of, online learning from a staffing perspective of how many staff members we have. But, again, everybody worked really hard and we're getting through it. And I think for the most part, things have worked pretty well for everybody. So that's my update. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
I just want to thank you, Eric, for the fine job that you and your staff did to make everything all go easily for the first week of school. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is the I wanted to let everybody know that I will be submitting a request for proposal. This is for our connection, for our fiber connection from Slatington Elementary to our Peters Elementary building. Right now, we have an E-rate contract, and that runs out on 6/30 of 2021. So this is the last year of that contract for the fiber between the buildings. So I will be putting out on the E-rate system a request for proposals. And what I will be asking for, this is a E-rate category 1 proposal. And I will be looking for proposals for another 5-year contract that would run from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2026. And I'm hoping to have that up on E-rate in the next week or two. And we will be looking to get the proposals back probably by the end of October, maybe the middle of November. And then we're looking to try to get something signed by the end of the calendar year to try to have it on the board agenda by the end of the calendar year to get an approval for that. We also have a connection from Slatington Elementary that goes to the IU. The IU will be putting out their own RFP for that because we participate in a consortium for that part of it. So I will be doing the RFP for just Slatington to Peters, and then the IU is going to be doing an RFP from Slatington to the IU as part of the consortium. So I just wanted to update the board on that you'll be hearing more about that in the upcoming months. And does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, that's all I have for today.
Eric, thank you so much. And I just want to echo Mr. Dissler's comments. The work that a department of 4 has done really since last March has been nothing short of astounding. So thank you. You know, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of your department, and you've really stepped up to meet the needs of our students through all of this.
Yep, you're welcome, and I agree. I think our staff, again, Mr. Hawes, Mr. Kramer, Ms. Miklos, they've all been working extremely hard. So they all do a great job. So I agree 100%. And thank you.
Okay. At this point, we can transition over to the Finance Committee agenda, which will be led off by Mrs. Bonnick tonight.
Can you guys see me? Because I don't know which way you see me and you don't.
I can see you, and it looks like you're sitting in your backyard.
I am. Okay, great. Okay. Well, we'll start with the beginning of the school year. It's been rather slow for us because of being hybrid, and the pickups, I think, have been a little bit confusing to some of the people, but we're getting a lot of calls and we're walking them through what the process is. So at this point, we're probably serving about 260 kids a day, which is usually probably just one of our sites. However, with that being said, we are looking at going back to the seamless summer program that we ran from March until mid-August. Information is coming down from the state. Matt and I had a conversation today, and as of 4:05.45 seconds today, we got the latest and the greatest on that. So we have some updates on how to go about it. I also have a couple calls into the state and have given my numbers to apply for that. We are in hopes that that will actually qualify us for free students throughout the board. So that would be whether they're at school or whether they are picking up. And I think in that situation that we will get a much greater participation because we obviously did this summer. We fed over 30,000 kids. So I think sometimes that, you know, when you have to fill out the form every week, it can be a little confusing and cumbersome for some of our parents. So this will certainly make it a much easier situation. So once we have more information on that, I am hoping by the end of this week that I'll be getting all of our applications in for approval and hopefully be able to go. I honestly think we could go as soon as next week for middle school because they were already approved this summer. I just need to do some updating according to what I've read that came in at 4:05. And everything else, it looks like it looks like it's for free for everyone. So Matt thought the same thing, but as more information is coming down, it's looking even more so. So I'm kind of excited about that.
That's great news. I know Sue and I, like every day, 4 or 5 times a day, we check our emails to see if PDE's Division of Food and Nutrition has released the final go-ahead. I think our community deserves this. I think our students deserve this. If we can say, listen, we understand everybody's under strain right now. Let us offer you these free meals again. Hopefully that will be received well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So, anything else?
No, I think that's it right now. You know, our staff is hanging in there and doing okay. It's amazing how a little bit of change really throws them in a turn. But they're doing well. We're asking them to step up to the plate and to really kind of make our food look more restaurant style, a little more decorative, that sort of thing. And I think the girls are doing a great job. We did our first Lunchables this past week, and I was proud of them. I thought the girls did a really nice job on making it look very user friendly to the kids and saying like, wow, this is kind of like what I get at the grocery store. So it was good. We're working and we're getting a little more training in while we're utilizing this downtime. But we're in hopes that as we move ahead, that hopefully we'll be able to really increase our participation with the SSO program.
Thank you, Sue. Great job to you and your staff.
Thank you.
We're going to transition over to Mrs. Franz now for an update on the Social Security deferment.
Donna Culp has just joined us.
Oh, hi, Donna.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, the first topic we'd like to discuss is updating the Social Security deferment. As I had mentioned in the weekly update, President Trump in early August put down an executive order that at this point made it optional for employers to stop deducting Social Security tax from employees. It was a deferment. Anything, if you participated, eventually you would have to pay the money back. The deferment was to run from September 1st to December 31st. The payment schedule was to begin January 1st through April 30th. At this point in time, unless anything changes, Northern Lehigh is not going to participate in this. It's just kicking the can down the road. You're giving people a little bit more money now, but then after the first of the year, they're going to be, they would be taxed double to pay the money back. So until it becomes mandatory, we are going to not participate in the program. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. The next item is an update on our system conversion to FIS, which is our new financial information software. We ran our first live payroll this week. Everything went very well. The people from CSIU said it was one of the easiest transitions that they've had. So I give kudos to Heather Kenyon for that. She's been working very hard with them to get that done. We've also opened up the portal, the employee portal. Had some growing pains there, but by and large, it's gone very well as far as being able to access their information through the employee portal. Tomorrow will be the test when they go out to look at their first paycheck through the portal. But other than that, so far, everything's been going very well there. Sherry?
Thank you, Rhonda.
So the next thing I'm going to talk about is sheriff sales. So back when the pandemic started, Portnoy kind of stepped back and was not aggressive with their approach of filing rights of execution in order to file for sheriff sales for properties who have not been paying their taxes or making any kind of an effort to pay their taxes. So the attorneys from Portnoy have reached out to us now asking if the school district is okay if we can start this process up again. So we wanted to bring it to the finance committee meeting, making sure that they want to return to now basically business as normal, moving forward with what we have in the past with Portnoy, and using them it's okay for them to start moving forward with sheriff sales again, some right of executions and that kind of stuff for people to pay their delinquent taxes. So I'm looking for a recommendation.
I have a quick question, Sherry.
Sure.
Someone in Harrisburg, and I'm not sure which department it was, came up with some other new idea that you cannot proceed with evictions and things like that until the end of the year unless certain criteria are met. Does that apply to the Portnoy situation and taxes, or is that just mortgages and rental?
I'm wondering if it's mortgages and rentals. That's what I think it has to do more with, that they can't do it on that realm. Yes.
That's what I thought too. So we should be legally okay on this. We wouldn't be getting involved
Correct.
in those quagmires. Okay, thank you.
Correct. And he just sent me this email like the middle of August. So I think if they knew that they were not allowed to do it, they wouldn't be pursuing us to say, do you
They
guys
wouldn't
want
have
to
gotten it
start
back.
up again? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
So if you're looking for a suggestion, Sherry, to move ahead with what we're doing, the answer is from me is yes.
Okay. Thank you, Gary.
I'm okay. This is Robin. I'm okay with it as well.
Sure.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Matt.
Sure.
Sherry,
Right.
it's Donna. I'm okay also.
All right. Thank you, Donna.
Mr.
right.
Sherry, Bob. Sherry, this is Bob. I agree.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. All right, then I will contact Mr. Kelly and just let him know that we're going to resume to business as normal per se. So, okay, thank you. And I believe that's probably the end of our agenda.
No, there's two more items. There's two more items. I don't believe they were on the agenda that was sent out, but there are two more
Okay.
items.
Okay. I was like, I didn't see anymore.
We received a final determination on our insurance claim on the football field when we had all the water damage. There's a part of our policy which says if the claim is under $15,000, there's a $500 deductible versus if it's more than $15,000, there's a $25,000 deductible. So the estimate that Greg got was for $3,875. So we will be getting $3,375 from the insurance company. So the only out of pocket for us will be $500. And the last item.
Let me, Rhonda, hold on a second. Let me jump in here and just say that kudos to Rhonda because they ended up saying that we had a $25,000 deductible and she found in our policy that it really needed to be under another claim, which was only a $500 deductible. So had she not been diligent enough to look and find that, we wouldn't be receiving anything. So good job, Rhonda.
Well, thank you.
Yes, great job.
And then Mr. Green had asked about the liability and risk for the COVID. We discussed this early on with our insurance agents, and I believe Matt also discussed it with the attorneys, that the feeling on it is, of course, anybody can sue anybody. However, their feeling is that as long as you are following the guidelines set down by the CDC and the Department of Health, you are in essence protected. And the district is following those guidelines. We have our safety plan in place. So as far as that goes, I think insurance-wise, we're pretty safe. You know, they also said it's like anything else. If you're in a room full of people and 4 people are sick, how do you prove who you got it from? They think it's like anything else in great. It would be very difficult to pinpoint where you got sick. So.
Thank you, Rhonda. That was what I was hoping to hear. And it came out today in the Pennsylvania School Boards Association memo, you know, are you covered? Are you backed? And things like that. And I guess that's what prompted me to ask whether or not you felt we were. And it sounds like you're pretty comfortable with it at this point. And I understand the concept of lawsuit. Yes, you can sue anybody for anything. So I get that, you know, but thank you for the update.
There was legislation presented that school districts could not be sued. However, I have heard nothing other than when it was presented. So I don't know if it died on the floor or what happened with that. But I know there was discussion amongst the legislature too to protect schools as well.
Well, now that schools have opened, nobody needs it anymore. You know, we were looking for help and guidance, but now it's like,
Right.
oh, well, you're on your own. So thanks, Rhonda.
Yep.
I'd like to add in, and kudos to the board and the Matt for being a little bit careful and kind of reconsidering what we were going to do. I think it was the prudent thing to do. And even athletically, and obviously I'm athletic minded, you know, we were I believe in the league, one of very few that have kind of delayed our start in safety of our students. And I think it was prudent. So I just want to say, you know, kudos to the board for thinking about our student safety. I think that's very important.
Thank you, Mr. Kern. I agree as well. And speaking of athletics, I met with Mr. Geist today. There's going to be a series of new considerations that we're going to have to make Part of my superintendent's report on Monday evening, I'm going to cede some time to him to speak about some upcoming decisions that we're going to have to make related to everything like, believe it or not, winter sports, intramurals. Today, the House previously passed and the Senate just passed a bill saying that school districts can now locally decide if they want to allow more than 250 people into a sporting event, which will then go to the governor's office. And he has three choices: either approve it, veto it, but right now it's pretty much veto proof, and or do nothing and wait it out for 10 days, and which would just really extend the time for the inevitable. So we're going to have some more decisions to make coming up regarding sports, and Mr. Geis is going to speak to those Monday evening.
And on a side note, if they're going to cancel the wrestling season, I vote no. I'm sorry. Kiddingly, of course.
Understood.
We don't have to worry about 25 people going to see wrestling, though. Nobody goes to see it. So,
That's not true. Sorry. It now looks like that's the end of our agenda, at least unless somebody else would like to bring up another something for the good.
No, I just want to thank everybody and stay healthy and well and safe until Monday night, at least.
Eric, are we all clear on the chat line?
Yes, we're all good.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, everyone, hope you all have a nice evening, and see you Monday night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Have a good night.